New Fred, OP here again. Explanation for why I ghosted last night is in the old thread. Sorry about that. I am using a trip code now to avoid imposters. So, I'll start off today during my first winter, approximately 5 to 7 months since my first night outside, so between December and February. We had a bad winter that year, I think 2010 or 2011. It snowed a lot, but mostly just really cold, icy rain, and sludge. I had begun a dugout-style shelter in Cherokee National Forest, probably 6 to 8 miles up the mountain from the street I grew up on, in my tiny little backwoods town. What I did was dig out about 3 to 4 feet into the side of the hill over the course of a month. I used a cheap short shovel from Tractor Supply and my trusty walnut hatchet for roots. My pup tent was basically in shreds now, but it was better than nothing. I would put the tent up against the far wall of the dugout, and then stretch my tarp in front and over top of it. It wasn't a bad little shelter. I used thick branches and duct tape to make a shitty U-frame to help support the branches that I eventually added across the top of the tarp. Later on, I added extra leaves, brambles, and mud to fill in the spaces. It turned into a fairly comfortable winter shelter, though it was still intensely cold at night, and especially in the early mornings when I was just waking up. That cold gets into your bones. You warm up throughout the day, but it's hard to describe. Like you're frozen through and partially thaw out during your daily routine, but you never really cook. This first winter was probably my most desperate time while being homeless. The snow on the mountain was thick enough that walking to town to get supplies seemed impossible, and at the same time, the small game I had been counting on had all but dried up. It was winter though, so deer was still plentiful. I had not hunted one yet at this point. All I had was pick-related. Gam's Winchester 47A in 20 gauge and a Taurus 1911. Needless to say, these are not good winter hunting options. I had to get a rifle or a compound bow or something. My life might depend on it. I waited for a warm day. The snow is melting, but it's still slushy and shitty though. I made the trek to the road below. This takes longer than usual due to slipping around in the mud. I spent at least 3 or 4 hours, and then I finally got there. I wrapped my shotgun in trash bags and tape, climbed halfway up a tree and stash it. Tried to cover it as best as I can with foliage. I do this now because, even though open carry of unloaded long arms is legal, in my unshaven, unkempt, and mostly unwashed state, I was obviously homeless. Police would stop me all the time, ask where I got it, etc. I was scared it would be, confiscated somehow. I've grown a very tight connection to it by now, after all. It was my safety blanket, my little piece of home. It must be protected at all costs. Cannot risk walking around outside of the woods with it. I still CC my sidearm, illegally, I might add. I may still be able to legally own my guns, but there was no way I was getting a CCW right now. I know this may seem stupid to most folks, but understand the sort of constant unease and fear I was living under. Paranoia had set in long ago, and now it had been cemented into my psyche, to the point that I still feel its effects today. I walked to the pawn shop. I am friendly with the owner. He is sympathetic to my plight, and we shoot the shit about guns on my trips in. I had about $200 saved from day laboring. I'm very good at not spending money now, what with food stamps and having a semi-permanent shelter. I ask him what he can do for me. I offer him squirrel and rabbit pelts as a bonus. He is annoyed, I can tell, but I am desperate. He knows it too. Tell you what, keep your pelts. Give me the $200. You can shovel my driveway and we will call it even. He hands me a well-used Savage .308. The rifling is pretty bare, some rust along the barrel, but overall, it will shoot. So I've got this .308 now. He threw in a dozen or so loose rounds he had for himself. I was apprehensive about walking back to my stash with it, so open bolt, hold by the middle, in offhand, barrel pointed down. I avoided the road. I walked the train track as far as I could, then kept just inside the tree line. I got to my stash, wrapped up my new rifle, and stashed it too. I forgot to mention, the rifle had no sights, no scope. I wasn't sure how well I would even be able to hit anything. I head back into town. I stock up on more powdered soup and beef jerky with food stamps. I waited till the pawn shop closed at 5, rode with the owner to his house, and shoveled his driveway as promised. He brought me some meatloaf and mac and cheese that his family had for dinner in aluminum foil. It tasted like heaven. I ate it while he drove me back to my stash. No fork, no fucks. He's a really good guy, honestly. There are a few good folks in this town. I grabbed my guns. At first, I tried just carrying both, but that got cumbersome. I ended up putting the Savage in my duffel and drawing the string around the grip. The stock still stuck out, but fuck it, woods. It got dark while I was still hiking. I can't accurately describe how miserable it was, hiking up muddy, sloshy forest terrain. No trail, just following the creek, which was mostly frozen as well. I needed new boots. I was still wearing the same old steel toes I had before I went to jail. A nice hole had dug into the sole of my right foot, so it was constantly cold and soggy. After a while, it went numb. I finally made it back to my shelter. I lit a fire with a small amount of wood I kept dry with me under that tarp. That feel when you put nearly frostbitten toes next to a warm fire. I am bundled up, Dickies jeans on top of sweatpants, on top of long johns, 2 t-shirts, a hooded sweatshirt, and a big wool overcoat. Cheap jersey work gloves, the kind in free packs at the gas station for like $2. I doubled up on them, then wool fingerless inserts over that. It's really strange. Some of the times I look back on fondly. This was one of them. By now, stuff like TV and Facebook, microwaves, and even a solid roof were like things of the past. I was getting pretty used to the life, enough that now I found myself really enjoying these small comforts. I had bought a few paperbacks and kept getting the 2 packs of legal pads when I had extra money. I would write things like dreams I had or just rants about the world. A lot of angry, lonely stuff. When a legal pad got full, instead of carrying it around with me, I would wrap it in plastic and bury them. I don't know why I did this. During this time, I was a very paranoid, manic person. I feel like I completely lost my mind on that mountain. Anyway, somewhere in Cherokee National Forest, there are a string of legal pads buried in shallow holes, filled with an increasingly hateful and nihilistic manifesto. I described my rules for living, recipes for various stews, and things I would cook up using squirrel, raccoons, wild onions, and whatever else I scrounged up. I was drinking too. I never used to drink before I was homeless, but like another poster in the original thread pointed out, it's honestly hard to avoid. You search for something, anything, to help cope with the loneliness and the bleak day in day out monotony of life without any purpose other than survival. I spent a lot of cold, lonely nights clutching Gam's shotgun, drinking Old Crow, and reading thrift store paperbacks. I had an abridged version of Moby Dick, some Hardy Boys, Robinson Crusoe, even a few Agatha Christie mysteries. Nothing I particularly enjoy. I bought them because they were less than a quarter. After the sun set every night, there was nothing more that could be done, so you just sit and read and drink. I drank hot whiskey a lot. Hot whiskey. Sometimes I still crave it. I would mix it with a little water and leave it on the fire in my coffee pot until it got good and steamy, and drank it down. It was very soothing. Whiskey already warms you up, but hot whiskey warms up your soul. It's the thing I look forward to most during my daily toils. The winter was very quiet. No birds, obviously. Most of the wildlife was tucked away hibernating. It got unnerving a lot. The silence. If I wasn't hunting, I would walk around and sing little songs, just making things up. About the trees I saw or stuff I remembered from the past. The coat I wore was ill-fitting. I didn't really have a good winter parka before I went to jail, so I had to get the warmest looking thing that fit at the Salvation Army. It was a woman's coat, but it was made for a very large woman. One of those big, long, thick grey and black checkered coats. Something you might see an overweight 70-year-old woman at church wear. It had some kind of fake pearl embroidery around the lapel. I was beyond worrying about how I looked though. I had to have been quite a sight though, like I killed an old lady and took her clothes. My mossy oak turkey belt had seen better days. I used 2 belts, one an actual leather belt, the other was a fleece belt from a bathrobe I found on the side of the road one day. I secured them around the back and front of the belt, and looped them over my shoulders, so it was like a makeshift pouch carrier. I had added a few extra things to it. One was a pouch I found that looked like it was for one of those big plastic cameras from the 90s, and I had a couple of Crown Royal bags I got out of the trash, tied to it, that I kept change, little rocks, I kept neat-looking rocks, sume, just any little thing I wanted to keep. I tried to keep my pockets empty where I layered my pants. I kept anything that I thought could be of use. Lots of stuff ended up being useless, and I realized now I was basically hoarding forest trash. I feel like I'm rambling, but aside from the sparse moments of panic, like the gunplay that I described in the last thread, the slow degrading winters were the absolute worst. If I can communicate anything about the homeless backwoods experience, it's the isolation and desperation. People in town will shun you for the most part, and you go days, often weeks, without ever speaking to another human. I felt more like an animal of some kind than a man, something wearing a man's skin, stalking the woods in an endless effort to consume and survive. I kept thinking, just gotta get that deer, then I can start getting things together. Just gotta get to town, get some supplies, then I can pick myself up. I lied to myself this way. I was constantly trying to convince myself that after just a little while longer, things will go back to normal and I will be a regular guy again. If I wasn't doing this, then I was wrapped up in fantasies about thriving out here. I'll build a cabin, I said. I'll build a nice cabin with a fireplace and a cozy little window, and I'll hunt and fish and never have to go back to that wretched society. In fact, I didn't want to go back. I chose this. This is how I want to live. I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. I am the happiest I've ever been, etc. It was all bullshit, but again, anything for that little ounce of comfort. I thought about suicide sometimes too, during that awful winter. When I let myself go and drank half a bottle, I was very conservative with my liquor. It was a precious thing that must be savored. I would lay back, in the dark, under my tarp. Think about just putting the barrel in my mouth Cobain style and ending it. What difference would it make? I thought about my body freezing up until the spring, when the bears wake up and they would gnaw on my freezer-burnt body. Maybe some hunters or something would find me, festering and bloated under a tarp in the summer heat. The freeze would make it hard to discover who I am. Why bother, the hunters I invented in my head would say. He's obviously nobody. Just leave him for the animals, they'd say. My body would decay and the forest could just have me. I would be here forever. It was comforting and horrifying at the same time. Luckily, I never got so dark as to do it. I have been fortunate in having a strong sense of survival instilled in me from a young age. My grandparents were both farmers until the last 10 or so years of their lives. They had to sell it a long time ago, couldn't keep up with the payments, and moved to a cheaper house with a small yard. My grandfather died years before my grandmother did. I'd like to tell you about my strong, awesome granddad teaching me to shoot and hunt, but honestly, that was all Grandma. Grandpa was from Baltimore. He joined the Marines, but never went to war. He met my grandmother while she was visiting some relatives there, and they ended up getting hitched. They moved here because she already had some land. She was a country girl, and I mean the old school kind. She slaughtered most of the animals, cleaned and cooked them. He worked for Geico in the 80s, working on their old DOS systems. Then at the local newspapers on the printing press until his retirement. She stayed home and raised me. We would shoot rabbits that got into our crops. She showed me how to skin and cook them, how to stretch and clean furs for preservation. I really loved that farm. Regretfully, they had taken out a mortgage on it to help with money, and eventually I fell behind. My extended family on my grandfather's side sort of, bled them dry. Always borrowing but never giving back. Car trouble? Need groceries? Short on rent? Ask Gam Gam. She would give you the shirt off of her back. Gam Gam died 2 years before I became homeless. She had a stroke and spent an agonizing month and a half between hospitals and home. I had to quit my job to stay home and take care of her. I'm rambling again. Rip Gam. One day, I will give your shotgun to my son. So, it's a few months into the winter, and spring is starting to show. In the afternoons, when the sun is high, it got to be in the low to mid-50s. It was warmer farther down the mountain, but I grew more and more resentful of the world below every day, so I was going down into town as little as possible, once or twice a month tops. I didn't have a hunting license, and deer season was well over at this point. I had done well with the dozen .308 rounds I had acquired before. I had probably 3 or 4 left now, so I had to hunt very carefully. I didn't have sights on my rifle, so what I would do was sit cross-legged in a bush all day. My clothes were caked in mud, and I had given up trying to wash myself for the winter. Creek is far too cold. I was not worried about my scent. I would wait there all day. I would bring a snack and sometimes a book, sometimes some whiskey. It all depended on the mood and the weather. I kept dry corn now to use as bait. I would sprinkle it a few yards away from where I am. A doe would approach, small, probably 50 pounds, give or take. Just a baby. A delicious baby. I would aim. I can do okay from small distances, but I've only been able to fire this rifle maybe 8 times. Not a lot of room for practice, and again, no sights. I aimed for her heart. I got her neck. You know what happens. She takes off, thick drops of blood steaming on the cold ground as she ran. She is bleeding heavily. I know she won't be able to run for long. I start following the trail. It's not hard. The snow is still hanging around, and it's still cold enough that the blood keeps up a good steam for a while. I come into a clearing. I can see her laying down across the field. She is bleating and convulsing. She's dying. I think about how scared she must be. I am sorry I had to do it this way. I would have liked to kill you clean, but it can't be avoided now. I am walking across the field, debating on if I should slit her throat, or just put a .45 in her head and be done. Probably the knife. Ammunition must be conserved. Bang. What? Bang. The sound was echoing a bit, so I knew they had some distance. It wasn't until the second time that I realized I was being shot at. I don't know how close you have to be to a bullet to hear it whizzing past you, but I did not want to find out. I heard the bullets first, the shot second. I freeze for a minute. No whizzing sound, just a bang this time. I dive into the brambles and scramble behind a tree. That face when. I don't even know which way they are shooting from. That face when. I could be sitting here in full view. I wait for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. My heart is pounding. Why is somebody shooting at me? Somebody mad about me poaching? Somebody else poaching and they want my kill. It's quiet for a while. I try my luck and peek around the tree. I see orange in the distance. It's behind the tree line to the clearing, but I saw it move. Time to test if they are still watching. I hop from my tree to the adjacent tree. I peek out and look. Muzzle flash. Bang. Holy shit, okay. What do I do? I sprint forwards away from the grove, in front of another tree. Wait for noise. Nothing. I don't know if the person is advancing or waiting. Did he see me pull back? Does he know where I am? I'm sure as fuck not peeking my head around the corner again and catching a bullet. I sprint forward again. I am heading downhill. I slide into a little embankment caused by tree roots in the mud. My foot is unusually wet. The sole of my boot has come off halfway. Perfect. I hear movement behind me. Is it him? Deliberate steps coming through the brush. I decide to call out. I don't know who the fuck you are, but I am armed and I will shoot. Just back off. You can have the damn deer. I don't care. Silence. I switch my rifle into my duffel. I grab Gam's shotty. I thumb back the hammer. I hear footsteps again. He is going to have to come around the embankment, or pop up above me for him to get to me. Either way, he will have to be close unless he backtracks and makes a wide flank. Silence again. Was he retreating? Did he know I was armed before I told him? I am waiting again. I feel mildly defensible here. I am too scared to try and run just yet. Patience. Timing has to be just right, I told myself. Remember the BB gun wars with your cousins. Pretend it's a game. Don't shoot your pants. Branches snapping to the far left of me. I look over. Polyester camo puff vest and a hunter's orange beanie. Are you serious? I am not getting flanked by Elmer Fudd. I scramble forward. As I'm running the 30 to 40 feet between me and the next tree, I fire a birdshot in his general direction. I hit the tree hard, sweating in the cold. The guy shouts out. I must have peppered him a little. Probably not enough to really do any damage, but I hope I at least fucked him up a little bit. I eject the shell. I grab one out of the big turkey pouch and load it. I don't even look at what it is. Could be a bird, could be a buck. I had already used up the few slugs I had. My shells were starting to run thin, since it is my primary hunting gun, small game in that. I close the breech and listen. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shots, with a few seconds in between. Must be using a bolt action of some kind. Didn't get a look at his rifle yet. I know he can't see me or hit me from here. if he is still where he was. I have not heard him move, so I assume he still is. He must be trying to scare me out. Not this guy. I squat down. I try to think up my next move. He is going to be mad now that I tagged him, since he is clearly not giving up. I can still hear that poor deer crying from yards away. I look around. I see another low hill that looks like good cover, across the incline, probably 70 to 80 yards. I steel myself. I say a silent prayer to forest gods instead of sprinting. I am making good distance. I am trying to zigzag, but mostly trying to just get to cover as quickly as possible. He doesn't fire at me while I'm moving, and I do not look back. I just get to that hill. The sole of my boot is flapping around beneath me. My 4 pairs of socks are soaked through, and I am getting stabbed by sticks and rocks. I try to pretend I'm Bruce Willis in Die Hard. I reach the little hill. I slide down the incline and lay there prone. My whole body is soaked now. I am very, very cold. The adrenaline is keeping me warm for now, but I knew I have to get out of these wet clothes soon, or I could very well freeze to death. The wind is harsh. It's coming opposite me, up my back, crashing with the hill. I am shivering, despite my sweating brow. I crawl up a little, so I can get a peek out from above the hill. Nothing. I waited on that hill for what seemed like hours, but in reality, it was maybe 20 to 30 minutes until the cold got to me and I had to move. I made it back home very slowly. I stayed in the brush and avoided any open areas. Every little noise sent me ducking from an invisible assailant. By the time I got back, I was absolutely frigid. I stripped down and changed clothes, though my coat and most of my good winter things were soaked. I just used heavy layers of long-sleeve cotton shirts, pajama pants, and my one other pair of jeans. The fire could not get hot enough for me. I never found out what was up with that guy. My guess is it was an impulse thing. I know. I was going to expand on that a little. Several more people will attempt to kill me in some fashion or another before I got into government housing. When you are very obviously homeless, people take shots at you because they know they are likely to get away with it. I think this guy was just out illegally hunting, saw me and thought, hey, I wonder what it's like. I don't know. I don't like to guess at people's motives, but I do know that when I would walk into town, lots of cars would swerve and try and hit me, or just not give me any room to walk on the road and send me jumping for the ditch. People treat you like shit, like something that does not matter. One more and I will probably hop off for a while. Alright, so after the hunter incident, my main goal was getting new boots. I had to keep using up good duct tape to tape mine together where it came apart while I was running. The weather is starting to clear up, but it's still pretty cold and rainy. I can't have a soggy foot all the time. Grocery bag liners will only get you so far. I went into town a week after the incident, when I felt less paranoid and ready to travel. I got some leather boots. I don't know what kind they were. No brand, but they turned out great. They were waterproof, just leather. The tongue was connected on either side, kept everything out. They aren't warm at all though, just unlined leather. With 3 or 4 pairs of socks though, they do perfectly. I still have these boots today, though I don't wear them very often. Paid $15 at Salvation Army. Great buy. After this purchase, I had about $6 left, and wasn't likely to get any more until landscaping season came around. I remember I bought a pack of cigarettes. I had not smoked since that first night. It felt like splurging on a gourmet dinner or something. It's the first thing I bought that I didn't consider essential. Yes, at the time, I considered my liquor essential. Sue me. I smoked one right outside the convenience store. It was heaven. I coughed, like I was smoking for the first time again. Awful habit, I know. Just got it on a whim though. What else would I do with $6 anyway? I bought a can of Coke and just sat in the heat of the store's bathroom. You went in on the outside, so I guess nobody noticed me going to the bathroom drinking a can of Coke. I didn't want to sit inside, even though the store had a little diner-style thing. 2 little booths and a counter. They sold fried chicken and burgers, that kind of thing. It always smelled so good. Good lord, I miss good old American greasy fast food. I could smell it from the bathroom. I pretended I was sitting inside, eating like a regular person. I wasn't really sleeping much in those days. A few hours, twice a night. My sense of time was really whacked out, and I was always unsure what day or month it was. That bathroom sure was nice though. It was clean. Just a few sharpied scribbles on the wall around the toilet. There was a door with a lock that I was in control of for now. It was like a castle. I wanted to just stay there forever. I actually ended up taking a short nap there. I dozed off unintentionally while drinking my Coke. Luckily, nobody had tried to come in. I don't think I was out for long. I dreamed I was inside my old apartment. When I woke up, I got an idea to do a very dumb thing. I wanted a night, one good night inside, with heat and a light. That's what I need, I told myself. Just one night to recharge. If I get this one night, I will have the strength to get my life together. It was a grandiose delusion, but it honestly somehow made sense at the time. Do this thing, and it will solve every single one of your problems. I decided to either hide or break in later and spend the night in this bathroom. Story in green text follows. I am looking around the bathroom for hiding spots. No cabinet, but the ceiling was those big officey looking ones with the little holes that make it look like a cracker. I move one of the panels, some wiring, rat poison, and about 2 feet of space. I test the strength. I stuff my duffel up there. It seems okay. The panels definitely will not hold me, and I doubted the thin wire suspending it from the roof would do much good either. Cheap flashlight. I look around. I found load-bearing supports farther away, but without the toilet or sink to stand on, I couldn't really just climb up there. I replace the tile and leave my bag. I check outside. Nobody is there. It's evening. The store closes at 9. I have a few hours. I discreetly leave. I don't know if the staff knew I went in there or not. I look around. I pulled a wobbly wicker chair out of a dumpster across the road. I left it in the tree line between properties. I hung out at the library for a couple hours. Did not check Facebook. I browsed K and Survivalist forum. 7 o'clock comes by. The library closes. I go back and grab the chair. I carry it as nonchalantly as possible up the road past the store, then double back and set it behind the building. I go inside the store. I ask to use the phone. I called my day labor place, even though I knew they were closed. I left a message about needing something now. Just wanted an excuse to go in and check out if anybody was shopping. I go back inside, around the corner. I check the bathroom, empty. I round the next corner and grab the chair. I took it in the bathroom. I climbed on the toilet and got my bag. Then I used the chair to get to the support beam. I stuff the bag up again. I open it and fish out 2 shirts. I tie the shirts to the beam, letting them hang down. I take the chair outside and toss it in the weeds. I head back to the bathroom. I twisted the shirts up until they were as rope-like as possible and used them to hoist myself high enough that I could grab the beam and climb up. In the rafters, my chest is on the big beam and my arms and legs are keeping balance on the small flimsy ones. I slid the towel back in place and just waited. It was 7 when I left the library. The store closed at night. I had used probably an hour and a half getting to and from the library and setting everything up, so I estimated I had somewhere around 45 minutes to wait. I got real uncomfortable. I wanted to change position. The beam was digging into my chest on either side. It wasn't much wider than an average smartphone. My arms are cramping. I am sweating. Why didn't I take my coat off? The door opens. Moment of truth. I listen to them cleaning up. They take the trash and leave. I hear the lock clicking shut. My time has come. I move the panel. Bending my arm felt great. I cautiously peek out. All seems well. I descend from my shroud of darkness. Nice. I sat for a while, just looking around, enjoying the pleasantness of both privacy and comfort. I turned the sink on and let the water get really hot and washed my face with hand soap. I never felt so clean. I had turned the light back on, so I was concerned about somebody seeing it under the door, so I stuffed clothes around the bottom of the door. Feeling safe, I sat back and started reading Murder on the Orient Express. Not a bad book. Kind of fruity, but not bad at all. I love the old-timey back and forth. I am raw-dogging spam out of the can with a pocket knife. I feel like a pimp. What's this in my duffel? Why, it's General Grant and his never-ending flask of Old Crow. Well, don't mind if I do, General. What a lovely evening this has turned out to be. I proceed to get drunk, reading Agatha Christie, and having conversations with the astute Inspector Hercule Poirot. This, as it turns out, was not a very good idea. I wake up to the sound of a lock turning. Morning shift has arrived. It's an older woman, probably 45 or so. She screams. I scream. She starts calling the cops. She is calling the cops. I am a homeless man with an empty bottle of liquor, a concealed, 2 if you count my knife, weapons, and absolutely no excuse as to what I'm doing. I grab my duffel. I forgot my book. Shit. I charge. I wasn't trying to hurt her at all. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. I shove her aside, making sure to smack the phone out of her hand. I shout sorry as I am running away, open bag in my hand and holding up my pants. I had unbuckled my belt in my drunken state for comfort. I retreat to the woods. I never go to that convenience store ever again. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the stories. The goal for the channel is 100k, so please subscribe, like, and leave a comment because it really helps the channel. Thank you for watching.